Did you know that Western Australians actually voted to break away from the rest of the Australian states and go back to being a separate colony again? It was 1933, in the depth of the Depression that had gripped the economies of the world, and Western Australians had voted at a referendum in favour of seceding from the Australian Commonwealth because many believed that the Federation favoured New South Wales and Victoria, whilst penalising WA. A record 91% of eligible voters turned up to cast their vote in the referendum, and it was a 68% vote in favour of secession. It was a very emphatic result, and so the government acted on the will of the people. But it was not to be. The Commonwealth Parliament put forward a very forceful argument for the Federation to remain united, and the British Parliament had the last word and refused to allow Western Australia to secede. The people do not always get what they want, so does people power ever work? Edith Cowan was the first woman in Australia and one of the few in the world to have a university named after her. Indira Gandhi and Mother Teresa are two women also given that honour. To give you an idea of how opposed some people were at the time to the election of women to Parliament, it is worth mentioning that on the ballot paper for the 1921 election, Edith Cowan's name was printed as Mrs. James Cowan. It was the convention of the time to refer to a married woman by her husband's name, but even when Edith died in 1932, the Tribute in the local newspaper had the headline, "Death of Mrs. James Cowan, OBE." Of course, the most interesting and potentially heated part of the sitting day is question time, when the opposition gets the chance to put the heat on the government. Or so they hope. This is the seat of the leader of the opposition, and the opposition always gets the first question. Question time, or questions without notice, is the best known part of a parliamentary sitting day. No one is too sure what questions are going to be asked, and the opposition is hoping to land a knockout blow in front of the members of the public and the media. The decision of the McGowan government to move Perth Modern School from Subiaco to the Perth CBD was not popular with the opposition, and they used question time and debate in the House to put their position forward. The duty of the Premier and the ministers is to defend the government. Question time can seem like a game of confidence between the government and opposition. The process called consideration in detail takes place at this table. Consideration in detail is just what it says it is. It is the time in the progress of a bill through the House when a minister can be called to the table of the House to answer questions about the detail in the bill. He or she brings with them 2 or 3 expert advisors. Generally, most bills get the support of both sides of the Parliament. However, it is the detail they argue about. West Australians have every reason to be proud of the Aboriginal art collection at Parliament House in Perth, but the rest of the parliamentary art collection deserves praise as well. This is the bust of Western Australia's first Premier, Sir John Forrest, sculptured by Italian artist Pietro Porcelli. He was born in Italy in 1872, but came to Australia when he was a child. His work includes this bust and the bust of the first Speaker, Sir James Lister. Other work includes statues of C.Y. O'Connor, Alexander Forrest, and memorials in Boulder, Kalgoorlie, Midland, and in Melbourne. However, he was greatly disappointed when he was not commissioned to sculpt the statue of Sir John Forrest in Kings Park and left the state in 1926 for Victoria. But life in Melbourne was hard for Porcelli, and 2 car accidents left him in very bad health. He returned to Western Australia in 1936, his marriage now over, and he died, a broken and penniless man. Parliament is there for the people. The desire to serve the people drives so many members to put themselves forward for such a challenging job. We will conclude with Amber Jade Sanderson, Member for Morley and Secretary to the Cabinet, giving her perspective. Parliaments, federal or state, are about the people and making laws for the people, whether it be over 100 years ago, debating the rights of women to vote in an election or to be elected to Parliament, or today, making laws about who is allowed to marry and who isn't. Change is the only constant, and Western Australians can be very proud that their Parliament has been at the forefront of change since its very beginning.